Alright, so today I had a idea of doing a video about my history and my feelings and etc. about the Shadow Man games and how I started to really love them and why they are so important to me. So this is about my history and how I discovered uh, the Shadow Man games in the first place. So I'm going to make this video while we still wait for the console releases of Shadow Man Remastered, and hopefully we don't have to wait much longer, and I'll have my Mountain Dew because there's a lot of talking now going to be in this video. So where do I start? Well, it was back in '99. I had my PlayStation 1 and it was very often I just visited, game stores, local game stores and supermarkets which had the gaming section. I just liked to really browse the games, what game was there new games out. I just love it to visit the game stores and supermarkets to just browse the games, because back then, late 90s, I didn't have my own PC and internet connection, so the only source I really got the gaming news was from the official PlayStation magazines that I back then I collected those. Pretty much I used to buy them from supermarkets and convenience stores. Like monthly. Of course there were monthly PlayStation magazines. There was new magazine out every month, and that was the really only source I got my gaming news and stuff, reviews, previews, hands-on, just all gaming related news and stuff. So I don't think, or it's been so long, it's been like since those times, it's been 22 years, 23 years almost since those days, so I can't really remember that clearly anymore, but I'm going to say though that I remember. So in the case of Shadow Man games, I remember those days quite clearly, because how important the games are to me. But anyway, so my only gaming source was official PlayStation magazines pretty much. But that day when I found Shadow Man on the game section on some I think it was supermarkets gaming section, not like game store, local game store. Uh, but I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was supermarket where I found Shadow Man. Back then I didn't know anything about Shadow Man game, so I found Shadow Man on PlayStation 1, so the PlayStation 1 version. And back then I had only, well, own play it. I mean the similar games to Shadow Man. Of course, because I didn't know anything about Shadow Man back then, it was completely new name, new game to me. But I immediately was curious about the game when checking out the back cover of the game, and of course all front and back cover and the text on the back cover that really described the game, and some screenshots on the back cover. And it immediately reminded me of Tomb Raider games that I had played before that, like Tomb Raider 1, Tomb Raider 2, and yeah, I think the first three Tomb Raider games. Uh, but I don't think that the Tomb Raider Last Revelation was out. I think that came after I bought Shadow Man, but I'm not completely sure. But yeah, I had played Tomb Raider games, and what I saw on the screenshots and the description of the game on back cover, I just thought, this looks very interesting indeed. I might actually try and buy this game, because from the screenshot it looked like more horror, more dark and gothic style of Tomb Raider for me, pretty much. Uh, so yeah, I bought the game, and yeah, put it on my PS1 and started playing it, and my first thoughts were just, this game looks and feels very unique, very unique. I hadn't played the game like that before, and I immediately, yes, I saw some uh, similarities with Tomb Raider games, but it was definitely much different than Tomb Raider. Like the atmosphere and just the feeling of the game was much more unique than maybe a more, you know, more traditional action adventure like Tomb Raider. This was really unique, and at first I think I really didn't actually fell in love with the game at first, because when I had played it for a couple of hours, I just thought, this game is really hard, and I really easily get lost. So the game felt very difficult to me, and it is still difficult, but I've played so many, or okay, not that many similar games after Shadow Man, that I got used pretty much to the style of Shadow Man through many of the other similar games. So it doesn't feel that difficult than it first was to me. So I was getting lost all the time, and yeah, back then I didn't have my own PC and internet connection, so there was no way to, check the walkthrough and yeah, just see where to go next. So I was pretty much on my own to figure out how to progress in the game. And I gotta say, I kind of gave up after, say, 10 hours of gameplay. I didn't get that far in the game in the first place. And I think I never revisited the game again after giving up. But then, couple of years later, I think I saw a preview of Shadow Man 2 on official PlayStation 2 magazine. So yeah, after I collected and bought official PlayStation 1 magazines, of course I naturally continued buying and collecting official PlayStation 2 magazines. So I remember I saw a preview of Shadow Man 2, The Second Coming, on some PlayStation magazine, and I immediately felt that okay, I need to really buy this sequel once it comes out. So yeah, there was some screenshots of the sequel, and I immediately thought that this looks to me much more. Of course, graphically, it was a PlayStation 2 game, so of course it looked much more. Graphics were much better, but it also looked kind of more accessible. That was my feelings when seeing the screenshot. It just looked more accessible. So I thought that okay, since the first one was so hard and I gave up on trying to finishing the game, completing it, I need to get this sequel once it will be released. And yeah, shortly after, in 2002, it was released. I got it pretty early on. I would say in the first or second week of its release, I got the game. And unlike with first Shadow Man I played on PS1, I immediately fell in love with Shadow Man Second Coming. And I was right when I immediately started to play it. I was thinking, okay, I was right. This is much more accessible and does not feel that difficult than the first game. So it was definitely easier game, just more accessible, and also the gameplay felt much more fluid, and just the gameplay was better than the first one. But of course, since I played the PS1 version of the original Shadow Man, that is known to be the worst version of the Shadow Man 1. So there was definitely better versions. Nintendo 64 Dreamcast version was the best console version, and of course on PC the PC version was really good if you had powerful enough PC back then. But yeah, I chose the worst version of Shadow Man back then, but of course I didn't have a clue about that. I just thought that since I only had PlayStation 1. I didn't have Nintendo 64, I didn't have Dreamcast, and I never did have those two consoles. So my only choice was PlayStation 1, and since I didn't have PC either, I wouldn't be able to play it on PC, the PC version. So my only choice was pretty much PlayStation 1 version. But yeah, back to Shadow Man 2. I just fell in love immediately with the sequel. I actually finished that game unlike the first Shadow Man, and I really, really loved that game. But it was not perfect. Of course, there was some tedious sections of the game, more towards the end of the game. There was just, too tedious, too long levels, some of the later levels that just felt a little bit boring to me and just too long. Some levels and areas were just too long for me, so that little bit ruined the overall feel of the game. But definitely, well, that was just that I wanted and I was able to finish the game really did mean a lot, unlike the first Shadow Man. But yeah, loved Shadow Man 2 more than the first Shadow Man back then on 2002 and onwards. But still, I don't think I played it after I finished it first time. I didn't revisit it for many years after that. But then I bought. So of course, I always sold my earlier generation PlayStation when there was new PlayStation coming. So when PlayStation 3 was released, I sold my PS2. When PlayStation 4 was released, I sold my PlayStation 3. Or actually, my PlayStation 3 broke, so I didn't actually sold it. It broke, but anyway. So where I was, thoughts. So yeah, I think about 10 years ago or something, I bought. There were still a couple of web stores that were selling PS2 Slim. Of course, back then PlayStation 3 was the main console, the active console, but I bought PS2 Slim, and I actually bought with that. No, I think I had all those years after I bought it in 2002. I kept Shadow Man 2 because it was so important game for me. I kept that while I was selling all the other PS2 games and the PS2 itself. I kept Shadow Man 2 for myself without the console. Just I did that because how much I loved the game. I just wanted to keep it. But yeah, after years and years I bought PS2 Slim, so I had now a chance again to play Shadow Man 2, and I did it. I played it, but I never finished the game second time. But I played quite far. Uh, but I think when I got to the more later tedious levels, I think I gave up there. I just didn't have the, the motivation enough to complete it second time. But yeah, I still love it, the game, years and years later when I revisit it. But then, uh, years and years and years and years later, to last year or 2019, I can't remember when the Shadow Man Remastered was announced by Night Dive. I think it was 2019. Um, so yeah, fast forward to 2019, I think. When I read that they will be remastering the first Shadow Man, my first immediate thought was that, okay, now is my chance. I will definitely get. Now is my chance to revisit the game and try actually to complete it this time. And I know it's going to be a hard, long journey, but I'm going to try it anyway. Uh, Definitely. So that was my first thought, that okay, I just need to get this remaster for PlayStation 4. So yeah, I was really excited, so happy that I will get this second chance to play the first Shadow Man with modern consoles and better performance and better graphics. Yeah, I knew it was just remaster, not remake, but since I didn't really had any issues with the game content itself, it was the performance and quite poor controls of the PS1 version that were I think those were the issues, not the game itself. Just the performance and technical side of things were the issues with the PlayStation 1. So I thought that okay, now I will be playing the first Shadow Man on modern consoles, so those technical issues will be gone. It will be more fluid, hopefully with better controls, and of course last year, no, not last year, it was still this year, the time has just gone by so fast. So spring, in March or April this year, at first I was disappointed to hear that, oh, the Shadow Man Remastered is out, but only for PC. And my PC is not gaming PC. It's just basic multimedia PC. It's not built to run modern games at all. It's just poor gaming PC. But since I check out the system requirements, it didn't require much, as it's old game. So yeah, I checked the system requirements and thought, okay, maybe even my PC can run this game decently enough. So I had to buy it for PC, and I played it quite a while. I would say 10 plus hours with PC, with my PC. But then I just gave up. The game itself, the just comparing it to my first experience with the PlayStation 1 version, even the PC version was a huge step forward, like technically, even though my PC wasn't really running the game that smoothly. I played it with high settings on 900p resolution, and I got about 15 to 25 frames per second, so not very smooth at all. But still I enjoyed the game so much, and yeah, I just thought that, oh, this is a so much better experience than it was back with PlayStation 1 version. But yeah, of course it wasn't as smooth as I would hope for, because I knew that already buying it for my non-gaming PC. I knew it would not run perfectly. I knew that before I even purchased it, but yeah, my patience was just not enough to, you know, I couldn't wait for the console versions at first, so I thought I need to buy this for my PC, no matter how it will perform and run. Yeah, so I played it about 10 hours plus, and then just gave up, because of course I knew back then I will be buying day one the PlayStation 4 version when it comes out, and I need to start the game from the start all over again. So why play the PC version, like complete the PC version, and then you have to start it all over with the console version. So I thought, okay, now I'm going to stop playing after 10 hours plus gameplay. I uninstalled Shadow Man from my PC. I think I did that in June, so I played a couple of months. So I didn't play that very often, once in a week or something. Or was it? Yeah, I think it was June when I decided to just stop playing the PC version and just focus on waiting for the PS4 version. But yeah, that was without buying it for PC first, I wouldn't be maybe that excited about the remaster in general. But I immediately saw, even though my performance was not really good, I saw the potential, how good the remaster was even on PC. You know, the game itself, yeah, it was technically poor running on my crappy ass PC, but yeah, the game itself was really well done. The remaster was really well done. So I immediately thought I will definitely buy this when it finally comes to consoles. So here we are, still waiting for the console releases, but hopefully that wait will be very shortly over. So it's still coming this month if everything goes as planned. But there's a good signs. Actually, Tim Haywood messaged on Facebook yesterday that things are looking very good, things are progressing. It looks like they are able to release it still this month. Yeah, it's looking promising, but then again, anything can still happen and it may be delayed. But yeah, we don't know. We just have to hope for the best, and hope that the game will be out within the next 3 weeks, because yeah, or I would hope within a week. uh, my personal hope is that it will be out next week. That would be awesome. Next week, uh, I would say 17th of December. So next Friday is my guess, actually. uh, or just like I joked, it will be the 31st of December, so the last fucking day of this year. But anyway, I'll wrap this video up. So there you go. That was my. I hope I remembered all the important stuff about about me discovering Shadow Man games first time. So yeah, but I still want to say that actually without Shadow Man 2, the second coming, I wouldn't be actually that impressed, that curious and that interested about the first Shadow Man, the remaster, because it was the sequel that really sparked my love for the Shadow Man games that the first Shadow Man didn't do immediately back in '99. So thanks to Shadow Man 2, I'm much more now interested about the first Shadow Man. So yeah, it was like that for me. I know that my story may be very different than other Shadow Man fans. Maybe the more traditional stories that they play at the first one and fell in love with that, but maybe with the better versions like Nintendo 64 or Dreamcast or PC. Yeah, I chose the worst version playing it. But yeah, and then they bought the sequel and were disappointed with that. But to me it was opposite pretty much. Or I didn't say like I said, I wasn't disappointed with the first game playing on PS1. It was just that it was so hard, so difficult back then that I gave up on playing it and tried to finish it. But the game was really good, like the atmosphere. I immediately fell in love with the atmosphere of the game and just the feel and the uniqueness of the game. Those were the aspects that I really fell in love with the first one. But the second one was just so much more accessible, not that difficult. So yeah, those just were that the second one pretty much started and sparked my complete love with the Shadow Man games. And let's see if there ever will be Shadow Man 3. So we can hope for the impossible, right? Us Shadow Man fans. Because I'm assuming if you watch this video you are a Shadow Man fan. Why the hell would you watch this video if you're not? Okay, jokes aside, of course anyone can watch this video, and if they are just curious about my history of Shadow Man, blah 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 blah. Anyway, let's now wrap this up for real. And yeah, we'll see you, and I hope really soon, when I will be saying and announcing that the Shadow Man Remastered for consoles is actually now finally out. I hope that will be the case, hopefully next week. But it's painful to just wait and fear the worst, that it gets delayed. But we just have to be optimistic and just keep up the hope that they will make it. They can do this still this year. So let's keep our hopes up, and yeah, at least it looks very, very promising now. Things are progressing in the right direction. So yeah, I just hope the release is very, very soon. I can already feel it even on my hands. The digital release, I can feel it on my hands. Ha ha ha. Anyway, yeah, and I don't think there will be a physical releases on any platform. But of course, we don't know that for sure either. The physical releases might be released later, but definitely not day one. So it will be digital only on day one. Anyway, now for real, I'll stop and hopefully see you next week. Yeah. Okay, so this is it. Bye. See you next week. Hopefully. Bye.